Okay, we're live. Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. We're Jimmy and Shelly Correa, and we're just so glad that you're here with us this morning. We know it's a sacrifice to be here. It's first thing in the morning, and a lot of us have kids or work or other things that are going on. So we're excited that you made the effort to be here, and we're glad that you're joining us. We are speakers, trainers, coaches, and parents, and we have been through a lot in our lives, just like everybody. We've been through a lot of challenges, we've been through a lot of changes, and we've just really been working hard to try and become the best person that we can be. We've done a lot of studying and a lot of research and just a lot of personal development. And our business of jimmyandshelley.com has come from the things that we've learned as we've dealt with these addictions or negative behaviors, negative thought patterns. And so we are excited to share with you today one of the things that really has stuck out to us as we have worked with others on how to change, as we've worked with ourselves on how to change. And it's like, Jimmy, I love how Jimmy named this webinar, like, I'm a smart person, why do I do dumb things?
She can say that because I'm the dumb one. No, but really, that's so true. All of us are brilliant and amazing, and we do amazing things. We have amazing talents. We have such amazing gifts, and yet even when we know what we're supposed to do, we know we know how to set goals, we know how to achieve things. We really are smart people. Even I graduated from college, so but still we do dumb things. We find ourselves getting stuck in the same habits, the same things over and over again. That kills us sometimes. And so when we've thought about this, we've come up with this change plan. Okay, how do I really change? And often, I know for me at least, there's all these different elements, and I forget about one or two of them, and then that's why things don't work out. So we really realized that you've got to have everything there. You've got to have all 5 of these elements. Otherwise, a change plan isn't going to really work out how we want. That's how we get stuck. So.
Yeah, so cool. So I came up with this change plan several months ago as I was looking through a lot of the stuff that I learned, and we're going to pull up our slides here so you can see them. You can go to the next one. Here's just a picture of our cute little family. They're a little bit older now, but we love being parents. And the thing that we've noticed with changing is that a lot of it boils down or can trickle down into our kids too, and helping them be able to change and helping them be able to learn and make good habits and everything. And so we're really passionate about how to help people change and how to help us really become the person that God created us to be. And that includes having a lot of happiness and a lot of joy, having success. It also includes some failure and some mistakes and some sad times, but it includes learning from those. Anyway, I want to share with you these 5 points. And if you're finding that you are trying really hard to make things happen in your life and things just really aren't coming together, then you might have one of these 5 things that's not performing the way it should, or maybe you've just left it out completely. And so I want you to think through some of the goals or some of the things you've been trying to change. Maybe it's a habit, maybe it's a thought pattern, maybe it's more of a tangible goal, like you want to make more money or you want to shed some pounds, or Jimmy's got a goal right now to climb a particular mountain, and that's one of his goals. So we might share some of the ways this applies to that. But I want to share with you these 5 steps, and then just be aware of what you might be missing in your change plan. So let's go to the next slide here. Oh, 2. Okay, the first thing for this change plan is, what are your goals? Are you focusing on what you want or what you don't want? We have a friend who's a therapist that works with families who've dealt with trauma. And she said the biggest thing that she finds as a problem is that the families come in and they only focus on what they don't want in their life instead of what they really want to create in their life. And we find that a lot with the people that we work with and the people we're surrounded with. We all know what we don't want, but often
that's the easy part.
That's the easy part. But we don't know what we really want. And so, and we've had just some really great sessions with people, just helping them discover what it is they really desire and the kind of life that they want to have, or the kind of changes they really want to make, kind of person they want to be. So if you aren't really clear on that, then you're going to struggle to really have a change plan happen. That's the first key, is to know what you want. I love this. I found this the other night. Vague goals bring vague results. And so if you don't know exactly what you want, and you haven't even put some measurements or some different things to make it really clear, then you're probably really struggling to achieve that. That makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any insight on that one?
I was just going to say, I take it about, climbing a mountain. I'm not going to make it up a particular peak if I don't choose that peak. If I just say I'm going to go hiking, who knows where I'm going to end up? But if I say I want to go up this mountain and to reach the top of this peak, that's the first step, is deciding where I want to go, what I want to do, and what I want to have happen. And once you do that, then all the other things can come along as well. But you've got to first decide what it is you want and focus on that, because that also feeds into some of the other things of, it feeds your beliefs and your thoughts and things. But focusing on what you want is going to make a big difference in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, the second step is, what behaviors and habits do I need to establish to accomplish the goal? And so, just like Jimmy was talking about, hiking the mountain, this particular mountain he wants to hike, he's not going to just show up and get to the top without being in shape, without learning how to climatize and do some different things. He's got to have some specific behaviors and habits that are really well established for him before he goes to hike this mountain.
I'll have some faith.
Oh, have some faith. He can pull off a marathon and a 100-mile bike ride without really trying, but he's pretty dead after, but he can do it. This is a little bigger than that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so be thinking through, if you have this goal to, say, run a marathon, but you're not ever working out, you're not ever practicing for it, it's going to be pretty tough, unless you're Jimmy, to finish that marathon. So what kind of behaviors and habits do you need in place? Do you need to be running every day? Do you need to be, chalking up those miles? Do you need to be drinking enough water? Do you need to be eating certain things? And this obviously applies to everything, whether it's an addiction, whether it's a negative thought pattern, whether it's keeping your house clean. What behaviors do you need to achieve that goal of keeping your house clean? We've been working on our house as we've been preparing it to sell. And I've been amazed the last week as we've had it show ready that we can get it completely spotless, cleaner than it's ever been in the 10 years we've lived here, or 5 years we've lived here, in about half an hour. But because it's all clean already, and then we work all day long to keep it clean because we want to keep it show ready. And I love having a clean house, just like most people do. But I don't keep it that way all the time. And I've been thinking through this step, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't made it a habit to just spend a half hour every day and clean things up and tidy things up and put things away as I go, and that kind of thing. I could have a clean house all the time if I would just adopt some habits to support my goal of having a clean house all the time. So be thinking through what behaviors and habits you would need to support you in your goal so you can actually achieve what it is you want. Any thoughts on that?
I was thinking in terms of, what's the quote? That what we persist in doing becomes easier, not because the thing becomes easier itself, but because our ability to do so has increased. And that's totally true with sports and any behavior or habit. If we want to become better at something, we've got to practice it, and not just practice it to do it, but to perfect practice. And the more that we do that thing, the better we'll get at it. And so, like, if it's an addiction, the more we persist in an addiction, the deeper it's going to become. The more that we persist in doing things to help us get out of it, the better we'll become at getting out of it, and doing the things that keep us away from addictive behaviors or destructive habits. So it goes with anything, that what we persist in doing becomes easier. It becomes part of who we are.
Yeah. So as much as I don't want it to take a couple of months to sell my house, I kind of like the idea of having to keep it clean for a while so I can get that habit going. I don't want it to last that long. No. Okay. Step number 3 is a system. what systems do you need to create this habit? So we were talking about, you know, keeping our house clean, and I have worked on so many systems, found a bazillion of them on Pinterest, some that I've really loved, you know, a note card system of clean these things this day, or a checklist system of here's the things to do every day to keep your house clean, or how to clean your house in under an hour every day, or whatever. Those are all systems. You know, a system is a set of procedures to which something is done, or it's an organized scheme or a method. And so, you know, if you're working on running a marathon, your system is going to be, you know, printing off one of those marathon trackers that says, I run 1 mile today, I run 1.5 tomorrow, I run, you know, or time wise, and on Saturday I run this many hours. That's a system. And so if you're trying to create a habit of running every day, it helps to have a system, whether it's, you know, I get up and I go first thing in the morning and I run for 30 minutes today, and then I run for 35 tomorrow. If you don't have a system in place that supports those habits or the behaviors that need to change, then you're going to find them not sticking, and you're not going to be consistent. So be thinking through, you know, what kind of systems you might need to complete your goal. And there are millions and millions and millions of systems out there for everything under the sun. So whatever it is you're trying to achieve, that somebody's probably already built out a system that might support you in that. You just need to find it and then implement it. Thoughts on that?
I was just thinking about clarity with this, that all these steps, you know, we've got these 5 steps for a change plan. Having a system helps bring clarity to all of it. And I know that's often where I fall short, because I let that fear come in of like, oh, if I put a system in place and I don't actually follow through with it, then I'm going to feel bad about myself, and I'm going to beat myself up. I'm like, oh man, I set this goal and I didn't do it. I'm dumb. You know, that the system has got to be something that works for you. I mean, different systems work for different personalities. Things that work for me isn't necessarily the way Shelly would want to do it.
No.
And you know, the way Shelly would want to do it isn't necessarily how I want to do it. So having a system that works with your personality is important. But it's also got to be very clear and deliberate. Just like with the beginning, you've got to decide and know what you want to do, and not what you don't want to do. Focus on what you want and what you want to have happen, and then building that system is just it's a way to get extra deliberate and focused on what you want, and then making a plan of how to have that happen. I remember growing up, my dad would always talk about goal setting, and when he'd say, you know, talk about goal setting, he'd say, make sure you plan your life, because if you don't, someone else will. And usually that someone else or something else is not what you want. It's a negative or bad or thing. So plan out your life so that you can do it. I love the way our friend Dr. Paul says it. He says, down is default. The default, if we don't plan, if we don't have a system, if we aren't deliberate and focused on what we want, the default is going to be down. It's going to be negative. It's going to, you know, turn into chaos. So if we want things to happen in a certain way, if we want our goals to be achieved, we've got to be focused and have a deliberate, set way of having that happen. It's not just going to magically appear, you know. And just like the mountain I like to climb, I'm not just going to fall there. I've got to have a plan of how to do it. I can't just show up at the base of the mountain and run up it. I wouldn't make it. I've got to have a plan of how to be prepared so that when the day comes, you know, I can make it up there.
Yeah, I love the quote that says, "People at the top of the mountain didn't just fall there,"
Yeah.
which is what you were referring to. Here's a little side note too, as you were talking about, you have to make a conscious decision for these things. And in the beginning, and for quite a while, it's very conscious, and it's controlled by your conscious mind. And you're saying, I choose to do these things. I actively, intentionally make these choices to have these behaviors, to follow this system. And at some point, the cool thing about your subconscious mind is that after you've followed a pattern several times consciously, it creates this neural pathway. And when this neural pathway is deep enough, the subconscious mind says, oh, this is becoming a habit. I'm going to take over for you. And I'm going to just make sure we follow this habit all the time. And when you've done it enough times, the subconscious takes that so that now it becomes like your knee-jerk reaction. And so you do have to consciously choose to follow this pathway and the systems and the behaviors for a while. And eventually it becomes so ingrained that you don't have to consciously think about it anymore. Your subconscious just will do it for you or help you make sure you do it so that, you don't have to think about every morning whether you're going to get up and run. But if that has become an issue for you, then one of these things is not in place anymore. And so it's created a disturbance in that neural pathway maybe. And so you need to go back and look at it again and say, what of these parts has fallen out of place for me so that this is no longer a habit for me? Okay, we ready to move on to step 4?
Sure.
Okay, now he was talking about this too with your thoughts. What did you say about, you said something as we were talking about systems that you had to control your thoughts, that, if you didn't follow the system all the way.
Then you fall into shame. And this is so critical, especially with the work that we've been doing to help men with addictions. That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's a big, huge part of negative behaviors, especially in addictions, certain kinds of depressions or other behavioral problems, is that idea of shame. And it's not just an idea, it's very real, that we get so concerned about, I didn't do this, or I'm not as good as I want to be, or I'm not as good as so and so, and that shame is just beating ourselves up. I'm raising my hand. I'm the king of beating myself up, it feels like. So that shame is so destructive to any process. That's, that down is default, that it tears us apart. And so with this number 4 part, our thoughts and beliefs, somehow we've got to change that belief pattern of beating ourselves up and saying, I'm not worth it, I'm not good enough, I'm not confident, and change that to where we can believe that, yes, I am worth it, I deserve this, I can do this. It's not just for me too, it's for me and my family, and for who we can go out and bless. And to change that self-sabotage shame and turn it into a sense of confidence and love and caring for others, it makes a huge difference. And that's why you see all these different things about, James Allen, As Man Thinketh, and the Secret, and all these things that say, just think about it, and then you'll, it's because this part is a critical part of the whole process. It's not the only thing, but it is a big part.
Yeah. So if we have a system in place, lots of times the reason why we're not following the system, either we're just being lazy, or we have some thoughts and beliefs that are not supporting it. And a lot of times it's tied to, like Jimmy said, to our shame or our guilt. Maybe we don't think we're worthy. Maybe we don't think we ever could achieve it. Maybe there could be a whole host of things. And sometimes it takes some help with someone kind of digging that out of you, of what really are the negative thought patterns or the limiting beliefs that I have that are making it that I can't achieve what I really want. I think about, trying to shed weight or something, and a lot of people are willing to do the work, but then things aren't happening for them. And they're like, wait, what's going on? They have a system in place. They have, they know what they want. They have these behaviors and habits. They build it into a system, but it's just not really working, or they're not consistent with it. They don't stick with it. And part of it could be that their thoughts and beliefs, they don't believe they're worthy, or they don't believe it's really possible, or they have a whole bunch of other, fears or different things that come up for them. Their limiting beliefs and thoughts can come up in so many different ways, and can really wreak havoc. And like Jimmy said, for us, this is one of the most important keys, that you have to be in control of this. And you have to be careful with what you're feeding your mind, what you're feeding your subconscious, because it believes whatever you tell it. And so if you're constantly sabotaging yourself, saying, I can't do this, or I'm not worth it, or I'm not good enough, or this, I don't deserve this, or whatever, it's gonna live up to that. It's going to say, you're right, you're not worth it. I'm going to make sure that we don't achieve this because you told me you're not worth it. So be really aware of what those thoughts and beliefs are that you need or that you need to change in order to follow your system. Any other thoughts on that? No? Okay. All right, here's the fifth key. And sometimes I know for me, I always wanted this to be like number one. Like, I really want to change. I'm going to change everything around me instead of me. These environmental changes are part of the change plan, and they are not the change plan. And often we think that they are. You know, if I want to shed weight, it means I need to have a workout room in my basement, and so I'm going to focus on that, building a workout room in my basement. Or I need to have a membership to the gym and 500 people who will make sure I get to the gym. And those things are important, but if I haven't done any of the other things, then it's not going to stick. Mm-hmm. And so you're in some of the things that are included in environmental changes would be people that I spend time with. You know, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So are you spending time with people that you want to be the average of? Or, you know, they're affecting how you think, how you feel, what you do. So that's something to be aware of. Your physical surroundings, whether it's your home, whether it's where you work, where you play, where you go to school, even your car can affect some of these things. If your car has become the place where you eat junk food all the time, it needs to be part of the environmental change. We were working with some, or doing some research on some change, and they were talking about a lady who had gotten in a habit of going to Costco, buying the big, awesome chocolate cake that's so good every time she went, and then she would bring it home, put it in the fridge, and every night as she watched the news, she would eat a little sliver of this cake. Well, she realized that it wasn't helping her to achieve her goal of being healthier, and so she thought, okay, I'm just going to use willpower and I'm just not going to eat it. But it still sat in the fridge. Yeah, that's not going to work. Willpower alone is not going to get you there. And so you've got to have all the other things in place. So for her, she had to make some environmental changes. She had to take the fridge, or the fridge out of the cake. She had to take the cake out of the fridge and chuck it, right? But then she found that next time she went to Costco, she bought another one. That doesn't work.
Because they're so good.
Because they're so good, right? So then she found out she actually needed to stop shopping at Costco for a while, because the habit was so ingrained, and if she didn't change the pathway somehow, she was just going to keep falling into the same rut. Those are some of the things that are considered environmental changes. You know, we have a friend who has come across, he's snowshoed, the Antarctic.
Oh, yeah, Aaron Linsdale.
Aaron Linsdale. Oh my gosh, amazing man. I never have words for what he did.
He crossed the Antarctic alone. Yeah. Wow.
It took him like 82 days. But as I was listening to, he did an interview with our friend Dr. Paul, and as I was listening to that, he said, when I was training for this, I lived in Southern California. And he was like, it's really not very conducive to training. And so now he lives in Jackson, where he can train in the winter all the time. He would go up to Yellowstone and he would train. And if you think for 1 minute you're going to be prepared to cross the Antarctic by living in Southern California, like, think again. That's an environmental change. And so he had to choose. He really wanted to do this. He had to choose to physically move himself somewhere else where he could adequately train for this goal that he'd set, which is a crazy goal, but it's really awesome. And his story is really great. Antarctic Tears, is that the name of his book?
Antarctic Tears, yeah.
Antarctic Tears, if you want to read his story, it's really cool.
Another example of this environmental change, it's pretty dramatic. And maybe you've read or heard about this, but there was a study that was done with the Vietnam veterans. So there was a ton of people over in Vietnam that ended up getting addicted to heroin because it was used as a medicine. And there's all these heroin addicts over in Vietnam, and a lot of people were really scared to bring them back into the U.S. And, you know, as heroin addicts, what are we going to do? What's going to happen when we bring all of these, thousands of soldiers back that are addicted? And the crazy thing is that they came back, and it was like 95% of them never went back to using heroin, just like that. And it's crazy that heroin being one of the most addictive drugs there is, and they came back and it was just like no big deal. Now that's a dramatic example of how environmental changes happens. Now the reason they figured this was that being over there in this extreme condition of war, under all the pressures and stress, and the PTSD and all those things combined, plus the easy access to the heroin, they they basically were there. There was no chance for them. They were stuck there with that addiction. But when they came home, all of those environmental changes were completely different. They had their family and friends around that loved them. They had jobs that they were dedicated to. They had other things occupying their time, their mind, and their thoughts, so that they didn't have that need or desire for the heroin anymore. And I don't know how all that played out, with withdrawals and everything, but it's a dramatic example of how environmental changes can be a big part. Now, does it work like that all the time? No. There's definitely got to be room for all the other four parts. But environmental changes can be one of the things that we need to do, and that just depends on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, but it is something to be aware of. We can't use it as a crutch, and that's the one thing that I would that's been a problem for me, is that I've always been, well, if I just lived in a house that was more conducive to the kind of life I want to live, or if I just this, or if I just that, concerning my environmental stuff. And that like we said, that's probably part of it. But if we use it as a crutch to say, well, until this environment is perfect, I'm never going to be able to do, set my goal or reach my goals, then that's bull.
Yeah. Well, we've seen that with particularly with the men we've been helping with the addictions. Mostly it's been addiction to pornography. And so with these men, they say, okay, well, I'm just gonna get rid of my smartphone, and then I won't have a problem anymore. Or we'll just take our computer, and it's gonna be out in the open in the family room or in the living room, so everybody can see the computer and who's on it and what's going on. Those are environmental changes that may be important, but if that's all they rely on, and they don't work on changing their thoughts and beliefs, if they don't work on some kind of a system to help work through that, if they don't know what they want versus what they don't want, then it's not gonna
be
change.
lasting.
Yeah, you might have a short-term gains, but with those, like Shelley was saying, if those neural pathways and that thought process is so ingrained, you may change just the environmental changes, but if that's all you change and your brain is still focused on fulfilling that habit or that addiction, then you're going to end up going back to it in a different way, or switching to a new addiction that fills that
to fill the need. Because you haven't changed the need. Okay, well, those are the 5 steps. Here's a couple of things to remember, and I actually realized I left one of these off of here, but the first thing is, don't rely on willpower alone. And this is often where the shame comes in, is that we assume that we're just supposed to be strong enough, that just saying I'm not going to eat sugar for the rest of my life is going to do it. Well, yeah, that didn't work for me about a day. And then we shame ourselves and say, oh, you just aren't strong enough. You're the problem. And yes, we do have to have some willpower. I'm not saying that's not a key, but if we rely on that alone, we're going to fail eventually. It could bring about temporary results, but eventually we're going to fail. So allow for that. Allow, again, just cut the shame, cut the guilt. The second thing that can help you succeed along with this is to add some accountability. We like to call it positive social pressure. And you have to be really careful with this. There is definitely a way to go about this that's healthy, and there's a way to go about this that's actually destructive. And so you have to be really careful with who you share your goals with and who you are accountable to, because not everyone really understands what you're trying to do and will support you in the way that you need to be supported. We had a friend who was dealing with an alcohol addiction, and he had cleaned up his life and was doing really good. And his dad kept offering him alcohol for a cold. And he was like, Dad, you can't offer me alcohol. Like, I'm a recovering alcoholic. And his dad was like, it's not a big deal. And so he realized that he couldn't use his dad for positive social pressure. His family wasn't being helpful. And so, again, that was an environmental change. They ended up having to move away from the family because it became such a negative, it was such a problem because the social pressure was coming in a negative way. And then, so that's one thing. You've got to be really careful with who you are holding accountable to and what kind of pressure it is that they're putting on you. And there are some goals that are very personal that you don't share with people. And sometimes it's really important. It's hard to know where the line is there. We talk through that with our clients to help them know this is something someone can hold you accountable for, or we have accountability programs in place for that as well, so that you're getting the right kind of support, the right kind of pressure. And it's not, here's something to remember too, we don't want to be doing things out of social pressure. But in the beginning, as I'm consciously trying to create this neural pathway, this habit, that social pressure keeps me going when I want to quit. And so it's important sometimes at the very beginning until it becomes a habit, and then we start maybe doing it for the right reasons, or our subconscious takes over for us. So it's not, again, it's not a crutch, and it's not doing it so that people won't get mad at me. It's just keeping me accountable until it becomes that habit, and then routinely checking in to make sure I'm on track. Any thoughts on any of that? Okay, so the third thing is, this is my favorite, is to attach some motivation to your change plan. And we work with people digging down at what the real motivation is. We were working with somebody once. He was an older gentleman who had started running, and he was in his mid-60s, and he just started doing like 5Ks and stuff. And he came to us and he said, I really want to cut down my 5K time. I want to be faster, and this is how fast I want to run. And it was several minutes. And I said, okay, why do you want to be faster? And he said, well, and he got this like big grin on his face, and he was almost like jumping off the couch. He's like, I just really, really like blowing past all the young people at the end. It just brings me so much joy to be the old guy passing all these young people. And then he stopped for a second, and his face went really somber, and he was like, well, I know it's good for my health to be running, and I know I'm a good example, and it helps relieve stress, and all these things, which are all really great perks. They're really great, and they can be part of the motivation, and maybe they are your motivation. But for him, the real motivation was he liked killing the old people, the young people at the end. It was just so fun for him. And so we put together a plan for him and tied his motivation into it. And just like 4 days later, I get this text on Saturday morning that says, guess what? It was like 3 minutes off my 5K time, and he'd done nothing in our change plan whatsoever. He just tapped into the real motivation of why he wanted the goal, and it automatically reduced his time because he kept thinking about blowing past people at the end, and it made him run faster. And when there was someone in front of him, he said, I'm going to get him because I'm going to blow past him, and he would run faster. And so when you can tap into that motivation and add that to your change plan, that is I think one of the most important keys that we often just abandon or forget or don't realize the importance of. And so attach that motivation to your change plan and figure out what it really is, because it's usually not what you think on the surface. It's to make it powerful enough that when things get really hard and you want to quit, you have to go several layers down. It's usually much deeper than you ever recognized. And so be willing to dig and find out what the true motivation is for you wanting to change. Absolutely. Oh, the last thing I was going to say is, and I forgot to add this to the slide, but it's really easy for us to say, okay, I'm doing all these things and I have to be perfect at them. And then, again, feel guilty or feel shame when we don't finish or we're not having the success that we want right away. And one of the things that I love is to think, I'm committed to the process. I may not be perfect at this stuff all the time. I may have times when I don't achieve my goal or when I fall off the wagon or whatever, but I'm still committed to the process. And that counts for a lot. That if I do fall off, I'm going to say, you know what, today didn't go so well, but tomorrow's a fresh day with no mistakes, and I'm going to try again tomorrow. And so remember to just be committed to the process instead of feeling like you have to be perfect at the process.
Absolutely.
Any other thoughts on any of that?
No, I think
we need to wrap this up.
So that was a short version of a change plan.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but we hope that maybe you got one or two little things that can help you in your own change plan and the things that you're trying to achieve. We really hope that you are getting the support that you need to achieve the goals that you are working on. A couple of things that we do have to offer that possibly can help you. First thing the thing that I am passionate about is helping men dealing with addictions, particularly to pornography. And coming up June 19th and 20th, we are doing a recovery retreat where we just, a bunch of us guys, we go up to a cabin where we can get away from the world and get inspired with a little more hope, a little more optimism, and get some tools and some support to overcome the addictions that we face. We've got some great speakers lined up. I'm really excited to hear. We've got a therapist coming and a couple other people, and it's just been an amazing experience to see that light turn on and to get that hope and be committed to a process, because obviously an addiction isn't going to change overnight, but it's a chance to get sparked and get ignited and recommit to that process. So if you're interested in that, please email us. We can probably, yeah, we can do an early discount if you're on this webinar or you watch this in the next day or two. We can get you a discount to be able to come. There's a link on our website. If you go to jimmyandshelley.com/events, it's under the June events. We've got that retreat.
Every mountaintop retreat.
Every mountaintop retreat.
Now, one of the cool things about that retreat is we go a little bit deeper into this change plan and see what pieces are missing for them and how we can help put those together, and then bringing in some of the people that help create these change plans. And so that's really powerful, and it builds in some of that accountability of people who really get it but want you to succeed. And so there's some accountability there too.
Yeah, and to really get the help that you need, because so many of the men that I see, they just try one thing. You know, maybe they're just talking to their church leader and they think that's going to fix it, or they just talk to a friend or a family member, or maybe they're not talking to anybody, they're just trying to do it on their own. And that's so destructive, because to overcome any addiction, you need a strong support system. There's several tools that you need to have in place if it's a true addiction. Sometimes it's not a full-out addiction and you can still get through, but if it's a true addiction, there's a lot of things that you need help with. And we help you to get those tools in place so that you can get the help you need. Sorry, I'm done.
No, you're totally good. I was gonna say, I think the regular price for that is $497. It's a Friday to Saturday.
Includes all lodging, food, and the event price. All
inclusive, and some really great resources as well. For those who watch this within the next few days, we will give you a pretty significant discount. We also want to open up, we're going to send you a link right away with a way to set up a free call with us, a 30-minute call to see if that retreat is something that will support you, if it's something that you need, or if there's anything else we can do to support you. And so we'll send you the link to that. If you call in and set that up with us, then we will knock the retreat price down to $349, which is a huge discount. And so, but it's just for you that have been on this or watch this within the next couple of days and set up that call. So we want to open that up to you. We also have some programs for changing your thoughts. Step number 4, what are your thoughts and beliefs? We have a Master Your Mindset group coaching program that's primarily for women. I guess some guys could come along if they wanted to, with how to change those thoughts and beliefs that are keeping us and holding us back. That next session starts June 13th, and that is also available on our website if you want to go check that out, see if that's something that'll support you. We'd love
the Master Your Mindset.
Master Your Mindset. Master Your Mindset group coaching. And then we also do some, well, right now on our website, we're having a special, our goal setting, which is to support step 1 in the change plan. What are your goals? There's a goal setting audio on there that's normally about $25, and it comes with the workbook and everything. It is on sale right now for $5. It's kind of a no-brainer. If you want to know how we set goals, Olympic style, I like to call it, so that we're actually achieving every day, we're achieving things. You can go get that on our website. It's just $5, and then it sends you the workbook automatically. It's worth going through to see. This is something that I've used with my athletes that I've trained, and some of them are working now to go to the Olympics. It's things that we've used to help with addictions, sell our house, just random things like that. So that's something you might want to check out as well, and just see if that can support you in step one of what do you really want, and are you setting up your goals a way that will help you be successful. Mm-hmm. So again, we will send you an email right away with the link to this. You can listen to it again if you'd like. And it also will have somewhere to set up a call with us next week if that's something that interests you, or to go check out the retreat or the Master Your Mindset group coaching. That will be on there as well. In the meantime, we have a lot of great things on our blog, on our website, jimmyandshelley.com. And we've just been putting as much of our experiences and our thoughts and the things that we've learned on our blog. So there's tips of how to change your mindset in 5 minutes. There's great articles on words that we don't use anymore so that we can have better success with our thoughts. Mm-hmm. All sorts of crazy things. There's free media downloads and free printables on there. Anyway, it's a great resource. You want to check that out. So we're glad that you've been with us today. We hope this has been helpful. Hopefully we get to connect with you in the future and continue to support you guys in your change and growing and becoming the person that God created you to be. So thanks for being with us. Oh!